Hello, and I want to welcome you to the Legacy broadcast today. We're just excited that you're with us, and we just believe the Lord's going to take this broadcast and use it in your heart and your life. Now, I don't know if you noticed, there's not four of us here. There's only three, and it's not Pastor Walker and Shirley. So it's Tex and I, and we have a very special friend, and that is Christy Hobbs. Christy, welcome to the Legacy broadcast.
You.
We're sure glad that you took the time, was willing to come and be with us on this broadcast. And let me just say, if you know someone who's gone through hurt, who's gone through the loss of someone, it could have been through death, it could have been through divorce, it could have, whatever, they've gone through some real hurt with a relationship that abruptly came to an end, they need to see this broadcast. And so I want to encourage you to maybe get on the phone, email, tell someone, hey, you need to go to this broadcast and see it today. Because we're going to be talking about some things that I know is going to be difficult for Christy to talk about, but we want to talk about them. Billy Hobbs was a great friend of mine. Billy was 1 year older than me, and Billy and Christy and Tex and I, we all met on Wednesdays. We would get together have our Cracker Barrel dinner together, and just pray together, travel together, minister together. There's so many different things. It's just, very few friendships that I've had like that, and it was just so special. And then one day I received a phone call that Billy had been killed in an automobile accident. And of course, it was difficult on me, but not nearly as difficult as Christy. And Christy, we want to just talk about that a little bit and talk about how you have handled that and so forth. But we probably ought to give a little background and so forth. How long had you and Billy been married before this?
It would have been 15 years.
15 years.
Yes.
And tell us a little about Billy. I know, but everybody else doesn't know. So tell us a little about Billy. And he played football. Tell us a little bit about his football career.
Okay.
Can you do that?
Yes, he went to Texas A&M and was a middle linebacker, two-time All-American from A&M, and he got drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. Played 7 years in the NFL with the Eagles and the New Orleans Saints and the New England Patriots, and then he played in the World Football League. So he had about seven years total in the professional football arena, and that was all before he came to know the Lord. And then when he was 33 years old, he just discovered the emptiness of all of that. Even the rings and the accolades, the awards, amounted to nothing. And through James Robinson, he realized that he was a sinner and needed to be saved by grace. And so he gave his heart to the Lord in 1979.
And he we had so much in common. First, we both had a passion to tell other people about Jesus, and that was his passion and my passion. And a lot of that came from, I think, spiritual roots. I came to Christ through James Robinson's ministry. Matter of fact, it was several years after we'd been real good friends that we both discovered that we had both come to the Lord through James's ministry. I had come to the Lord through James's ministry much earlier. When I was a teenager, and James was kind of a young evangelist traveling to churches and things and preaching. And when James was first starting, that's when I came to Christ. But Billy had this passion. I mean, this passion to just share Jesus, and he was pretty bold. And one of the things that was, I think, people appreciated about him, some didn't appreciate about him, was that he was just authentic, and he told it just like it was, told you just like it was. I don't know if y'all remember, what was it? It's so long ago. Was it 35th or 30th or what anniversary that we celebrated?
I think it was 30th.
30th anniversary that we celebrated, and
for our ministry.
Yeah, for our ministry. Well, marriage right about that time, but married a little longer. But anyway, we were celebrating that, and I asked Billy to pray. I don't know if you remember that.
I did.
And everybody was talking about Sammy and da. And Billy gets up and says, "Well, God, I think it's not about Sammy. It's about Jesus."
Amen.
And that's just the way Billy was. And
that's what characterized his life was, it was just Jesus, period.
Yeah.
And his testimony was called Too Tough for Jesus. And basically it was that nobody's too tough for Jesus. It was written up when he played professional football that he might be the meanest man in the state of Texas. And anyways, he said nobody's too tough for Jesus. You know, nobody has gone too far for the saving grace of Jesus. And he just like you, he had the gift of evangelism. And I remember David Guyon said Billy could stand up and say, "I love ketchup. Who wants to come to Jesus?" And the altar would be flooded, you know. And it was just that gifting and that heart for the lost.
Yeah. Well, now you guys got married, and I would assume that was quite an adjustment for someone who's coming from that kind of career for you guys, and so forth. Tell us a little bit about y'all's relationship and your growing in the Lord together, and so forth.
Well, first of all, the biggest challenge was our age difference. There was a big age difference, and so we had to work through a lot of that. But the Lord, through the 15 years, grew me up. And Billy was, as you know, just a kid at heart. So probably
big
mentally
teddy
we were,
bear.
yes, absolutely.
Teddy bear.
But actually, I would tell him sometimes, say, "Honey, you were so sweet." He said, "Don't tell anybody." So he'd like to keep that outer shit. But those 15 years that I have, you know, oftentimes when those waves of grief sweep over me, I just desire that we would have had more years together. But then what comes on the heels of that is, Lord, but thank you for the 15 years that you gave us, because we really grew and we learned from each other, and just the interest that we had. We golfed and fished and just had rode motorcycles. Did a lot of things together, and it was just such a blessing to have him those 15 years.
The Billy used to say something, and matter of fact, he said it several times right when we traveled together before he died, about when people would ask him how he's doing. Tell us what about that.
His response would be, "If I got any better, I'd be dead." He said, because my Bible says to be absent from this body is to be present with the Lord. And, you know, so often, and it's not that Billy had a death wish. You knew him and knew that he loved life. But more than anybody I've ever seen or heard, he had a desire to go be with Jesus. He had such a love relationship with his Savior that was what drove him. And as you know, he was a diabetic, and you know, from playing football, his body was racked and his fingers were crooked, and arthritis and all that. And so I think that played a part in it. But he always wanted to go be with Jesus, and I believe that the Lord, by His grace, in His sovereignty, answered Billy's heart longing.
The right before his death, we were all in Brazil together, and we one morning, you know, everybody had their assignments to go to different places, and somehow, I don't know how, but the assignments Billy had fell through, and you had you were speaking in churches, and Billy was just kind of there, and which here's this big guy football player with, you know, this great testimony, and it was kind of flippant. We said, "Wait, what happened here? You know, how did this happen?" And but Billy was so excited that you were having an opportunity to share